So I don't know if this is any sort of sign of something or what, but this is what I got today on my free pull. After getting him for the first time on those tickets you guys saw me use the other day, here we are getting a memory on the day of the release of the cards. Huh. What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters Allstar video, and in today's video we are going to be going over that new Goro and Kim support. But before we get into whether or not they are going to be worth your rubies or your tokens, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into today's video. Alright, you guys, so in today's video I figure what we'll do is we'll go through these here one by one, character by character, and we'll start out with Kim. So these are going to be our 4 newest cards, and starting off here we are going to have a new exclusive option card that is going to be specifically made for Kim, although you can of course attach it to other characters. The real question is it going to be worth it? Well, taking a look here, we are going to have a 6-star option card that is going to increase critical rate by 2.5%. You're going to increase your critical damage by 7%, and then you are going to have a special effect that increases your penetration by 800, but this is exclusive to Kim Kafwan only. So that is what we are looking at as far as this option card is concerned. Now, if any of you are wondering if there is any crossover appeal for either of these option cards, unfortunately, I have to report and let you guys know that that is not going to be the case. As you can tell from this card here, while it is a decent option card overall, there are going to be better crit-based cards out there for option cards. Specifically, when we talk about the Kasumi one that a lot of people use to bump their CP for things such as Chapter of Fight or so on and so forth, then that card is just going to be better in all instances over this one, pretty much across the board, unless we're talking Kim. Now, as far as Kim is concerned, this card is decent. I wouldn't say that this is going to be doing anything that is going to be game-breaking for Kim. We had talked about yesterday how neither of these characters are necessarily big PvE players, while there is a case to be made for the character we'll be talking about after this one, which is of course going to be the Christmas Goro. There's really not a whole lot you'd be using either of these characters for in PvE. When it comes to Kim specifically, really he is just going to be a gold farm character, but other than that, there's really not a whole lot of instances where he'd be beneficial to you. And this card here, being that it does help you with your penetration is always nice, but unfortunately, again, this isn't going to be anything that I would trade off cooldown reduction for in the case of Kim. So that's something you always have to take into account with any of these option cards. If they lack cooldown reduction, you have to keep in mind that you're basically giving up that cooldown reduction for whatever that card is, and then you got to figure out whether or not that's going to be worth the trade-off in the long run. And in this instance in particular, I just don't see it. The crit rate is nice, but there's just better cards out there, and the defense shred is decent, but I would have liked to have seen, or at least preferred to have seen, something else here. Now, this card might be good for boosting your CP, so that might be a use you might find for it if you just want to boost a striker's CP, or if you want to boost your CP for Chapter of Fight, or places where you would need that. Then I don't know if this is necessarily going to be better than some of the other options out there once attached, but I could see it giving a nice bump, being that it is going to be predicated upon crit. So that is what we're looking at with this one. I wouldn't go out of my way for it, but it is a good little card. It just isn't going to be better than what we already have, and really it's not going to be useful outside of very niche uses, specifically for just Kim, and even then, I would say there's way better options. So, not necessarily starting off great here with this one, but let's go ahead and move on to his finisher. So this is going to be the new 3PG finisher. This will be an upgrade pretty much invariably over the previous finishers for Kim. However, there's going to be a big caveat to that we're going to talk about. The biggest reason why this is going to be better, though, is of course it is a 3PG option. So being that it is going to be 3PG and not 5PG, and being that Kim does have a 20% power gain on his cores, that is always going to make sure that this is going to be charged up and ready to go. So this is going to be pretty darn good in PvP, I think, for him, and really both of these characters are going to mostly be viable in PvP, so that is something that is definitely going to be welcomed by the championship crowd. Now, there is going to be an effect here that is going to increase your penetration by a further 700 for 10 seconds when using it. This is also very good. However, it's just going to be a nice little added bonus to the fact that this is a 3PG. Now, if we go over to Kim, let's go ahead and take a look at the animation on this, and I'm going to tell you guys why this isn't necessarily automatically better than the current version that he has for his finishers, because this one here is going to be on the shorter side when it comes to animation length. Now, this isn't necessarily that big of a deal though, and I'm not going to dock it that many points for this, and the reason being is, again, this is not necessarily a PvE character in general, so a long finisher isn't really that big of a deal when you consider the fact that really you're just going to be using this character primarily in PvP. So that's something to keep in mind, but it is a short finisher. It's going to just be a couple of kicks there, so yeah, Taekwon, don't take it into PvE. How about that? You like what I did there? I bet you about 5 of you got that joke. Anyway, let's move on now to Goro, because Goro also got support. The Kim support may be a little underwhelming, I would suppose, if you were somebody that's a big Kim fan, but with Goro here, he actually got some pretty good support, so let's go ahead and talk about these, because these are actually low-key really good for him. And starting off, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the option card first. Now, this is going to be the 6-star exclusive option card for Goro Diamond, so all of you Winter Love Messenger Goro fans out there will be happy to know that this is going to be a pretty darn good card for your boy. So, taking a look at the effects here, you are going to increase your defense by 5%, you're going to decrease your damage received by 8%, and then you are going to increase your attack equal to 30% of defense with the Goro exclusive special effect. So overall, this is really good for Goro because Goro does have some defense to attack conversion already in his cores, so getting that extra conversion is going to be real nice for him. And then of course decreasing your damage received by 8% is going to give him some more sustain, and then also giving yourself that extra 5% defense is going to convert to some more attack as well whenever you are using him. So this character did get some pretty nice support with this card. Now this card does not have cooldown reduction obviously, but that is something we are going to talk about when we talk about the special card that he got for the 3PG, because that actually trades off with this one in a very nice way and actually offers some pretty good synergy for his card slots. So this card in general, if you are going to be using Goro specifically in PvP, because that is mostly going to be where people use him most of the time, because in PvE, outside of Immortal Vulcan, that is really the only thing that you would necessarily take a look at this character for. So this card isn't going to make big waves there. I don't feel like it's still going to be really, really good, but honestly, against Immortal Vulcan, you might just end up using cards specifically to counter him. So this card in general, though, I could see being used in general for the character, but I do think that this is mostly going to be a card you'll see slotted onto him in PvP, and in the rare instances in PvE where you'd use him, well, honestly, you could use it and be just fine, but you might end up using something else. However, there is going to be quite a bit to talk about with this card in relation to the other card that he got, so let's look at that and we'll kind of have the full conversation here once we have all the details. Now, this is going to be the new 3PG for this character, and there's some pros and some cons here. Now, the bigger pros here are going to be the fact that this does have an effect that is really, really good, that decreases your active skill cooldowns by 3 seconds when you use it. So as you can see here, if you slot on that new option card, yes, you are losing the cooldown reduction, but this card here actually makes up for it in a small way. Now, of course, you're not going to get the constant cooldown reduction, but once you use this, you will get that 3 seconds down, so that's really good. And being that this character did not have a 3PG to begin with, this is going to help him out quite a bit. However, there is going to be something we need to talk about with this card as it pertains to its viability, and that is of course going to be the animation on it. Now, a lot of people are probably going to be disappointed by the next thing that we talk about here, but unfortunately they have to have the pros and the cons, don't they? So let's take a look here. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, but if we take a look here, this is going to be the new finisher, and as you can tell here, this is going to be a grab. So unfortunately, being that this is a grab, this is not going to help him in any way, shape, or form in PvE. Again, this is mostly going to be a character that you look at for PvP, so that's not necessarily that big of a deal. However, for those of you who were wanting to use this or were hoping that this was going to be helping you in Immortal Vulcan, unfortunately to tell you, it is not going to do much for you because it is going going to be a grab finisher. So in most instances, at least in regards to PvE, you would almost always want to go with this one invariably because it's just going to be overall better in PvE. In PvP, the 3PG is probably just going to be the way to go because obviously you're going to be able to charge that up a lot quicker than this one, being that you have to charge 2 bars less, but it is something to keep in mind. So there are going to be uses for either of these at this point with this character, as opposed to with Kim, where most of the time you're probably just going to want to use the new one. With Goro, it's going to pretty much come down to what mode you're playing in and what you're trying to do as far as what you are going to choose for your finisher. So that's what you're looking at there. It's not a bad finisher by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, the only major issue is you have to keep in mind that it is not necessarily going to be geared towards PvE, at least for bosses that are going to have issues being grabbed. Now, something else to keep in mind with this new card banner, or at least with these new additions, is we do have the new slot, and it is going to offer you an extra percentage chance up. So as you'll see here, whatever card you have in that last slot, that new slot, it is going to have that 1% chance, which is really good. But that's pretty much what we're looking at with these cards, you guys. I would not go as far as to say pull for any of this stuff. I think you're better off just holding on to all of your tokens, much less your rubies. Really, when it comes to this kind of stuff, unless it's a character that is really, really good and it ends up being fantastic support, or there's crossover appeal for other characters with the option cards, then I would never recommend using your rubies on this type of stuff, much less ahead of an anniversary or a collaboration, or both at this point. So, being that these option cards for both of these characters really lack any crossover appeal whatsoever for other characters, and being that really none of this stuff is necessary unless you're a big PvP guy, I would recommend just holding off and not spending, and yeah, maybe you'll get something on a freebie summon, like I'm about to do. No, I'm just kidding, I'm not going to get anything, but we can try. Now, another thing to keep in mind today, guys, is that the Rush Dungeon Exchange Shop does go away after today, so make sure that you guys use all of your Rush Dungeon Exchange coins before that shop closes. There's some pretty good little items in there that you'll want to take advantage of, so don't be wasteful, make sure you guys do that. But anyway, that is going to be today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and found it informative. Hopefully if you're going for any of these cards, you get what you want. Let me know in the comments section if you got these cards, what you think of them. Like I said, they are not going to be moving the needle in PvE in a measurable way, but in PvP they are going to be very, very good. So anyway, I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe as always. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Continue.